All right. All right. So start with your legacy with Oak. What is so everything you were telling me about your history, about your family, and everything else?
Okay, my name is Jason Wells. I've lived here since I was in first grade. My heritage on Ocracoke is on my dad's side, O'Neill, and on my mom's side, Spencer and Robinson. My wife is Gaskell, Garish, and Gaskins, so that's an interesting spider web there. I'm the middle school basketball coach and the owner of Jason's Restaurant, along with my business partner, Jimmy Bowen. So this is October the 1st was our 19th anniversary here at Jason's Restaurant. As you can see, we're shut down now because of Dorian.
Were you here on the island when Dorian hit?
Yes, I was at my house. I'm one of the lucky ones. My house is on stilts. It's about 25 years old, but we definitely had the wherewithal back then to put it up high.
What was it like? Tell me.
Well, when it first started coming in, my property sits on one of the higher spots on the island. So when I saw the water come over the backside of my property, I knew that this was going to be different, because the backside of my property, even during Matthew, was dry. So when I saw the water come over it basically came over the hill and went down. My property is high on the backside and then slopes downwards. So it was like a class 1 rapids coming through my yard. And at that point, I knew we were in trouble. I had my Jeep sitting out in front of my house, and in the span of 45 minutes, it went from sitting on dry ground to over the windows high. And I mean, I watched the water rise, and at that point there was nothing we could do. There's no higher ground to get to. We had actually parked my wife's car on my dad's property, which is down by the lighthouse. That's even higher than my property. So that was the high ground, and her car was 4 feet deep in the water. It seemed that it concentrated on the middle of the island more so than. And also, it came up so fast. That's the thing that was different. Usually when the hurricanes come, I've stayed on the island through many hurricanes, and we always watch out for high tide. We always watch out, when storms coming, and all that stuff. But this one was different. First of all, it hit at low tide. It was almost dead low tide. If that had been high tide, then you hadn't seen nothing like it would have been. I mean, there would have been houses floating on the street if it had been high tide. The highest I heard was 8.5 feet deep, from the ground, and that was on the back road where the daycare center is.
Okay, and so at what point was it okay to come out of your house?
Well, the crazy part is that it rose and fell to a certain extent pretty quickly. I have a 10-year-old son, and when the water was rising, he was flipping out because his grandmother and my mom and my dad and my family, they don't have high houses like I do. So he knew they were in trouble. So, we called and we're talking to, my wife's mom and on the phone, and, she's like, there's water in the house, it's knee deep, and, my son was freaking out. Luckily, after about, I would say, 2 hours, the water stopped rising. And then it actually started to, what do you call it? Subside. So when that happened, and we were like, okay, we're okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew that when it dropped that we had seen the highest. I mean, there's my friend Celeste, who was the postmaster over here. She was in her attic because the water was so high where she lives. She's in a low spot. One thing that I just want to mention is that, well, a couple things. First of all, some people have a misconception of Ocracoke. Like it's this big, affluent vacation paradise, which it is. However, what a lot of people don't realize is the majority of the people that live on Ocracoke full-time year-round are middle-class, low-income people, paycheck to paycheck, elderly people, families, single moms. It's not people with three and four rental cottages we're talking about. We're talking about elderly on fixed incomes, families that survive paycheck to paycheck somewhat. And these are the people that are being affected now. Most of the most of the rental cottages are up high on stilts. Most of the primary residents of full-time people that live here are not. These are the older historical houses, the houses that have been in families for generations. These are low houses. So my house is 8 feet off the ground. Most of the houses are 2 feet off the ground, if that. Some of them sit actually on ground level. So of the 1,200 homes on Ocracoke, 400, so a third of the homes on Ocracoke were flooded. There are 105 small businesses on Ocracoke. 88 of the 105 small businesses had sustained some sort of flood damage, which means that basically 90% of all business on Ocracoke were affected by the flood. And again, these are small independent businesses. These are corporations. These are mom and pop shops. We've had the restaurant, and we do well here. But even after owning this business for 19 years, come February when we've been closed for 3 months, my bank account is getting close to the red line, and then we open up in the spring, and then we try to, and that's how Ocracoke is. Everybody depends on the tourist income to tide them through 12 months of the year, even though that season's only 8 months of the year. And in reality, there's only about an 8-week span where we have prime time business. The shoulder season has gotten better as the years have progressed, but for the most part, between November, December, January, February, there's nobody here. It's a ghost town. All the college kids are gone. All the tourists are gone. That's when it's the residents. And my biggest concern is that these people that I'm speaking of, these middle class, paycheck to paycheck people, we're getting a lot of attention now. We're getting so much help. The love and support and the supplies have been overwhelming. The monetary donations have also been incredible. But the problem is, when February rolls around, people are going to forget about us. We're going to be old news. Maybe somebody else will have a disaster, and the focus will shift to them. So what I'm worried about is these families, when it gets down to February, they're going to be flat broke. And the nest egg that we usually, end the tourist season with was kind of cut really short. I would say by at least 30%. So, people are losing basically 30% of their yearly income from this, from this situation.
Mm-hmm. I just had a thought, if you just want to make this, because I'm trying to get the everyman to understand this, the person that's going to sit back and say, so what? And so, for example, if you want to make this comparison specifically, I think most department stores do 80% of their business in the holidays for 2 months out of the year.
Right.
And then just say something to that effect. Now take away the holiday season. How's the department? How's the mom and pop store going to survive?
So Ocracoke is obviously a seasonal tourist community. The main time of year when we're busy is the summer, when school's out. So from June, July, and August are basically our 3 busiest months. But in reality, the busy season is only 2 months long. It's the second week of June through the second week of August. So that's 8 weeks. The profits that I make in Jason's Restaurant, over 75% of the profits that I make in a year are during those 8 weeks. Okay? So we got those 8 weeks in this year, but we normally have income through till, mid-November, and then we close down and open back up at Valentine's Day, February-ish. But we lost all of that, so our income has stopped. And this is basically commonplace for all businesses in Ocracoke. You make your money in this period of time, and then that's it. And like I said, we did get that in, but that's when you're able to save money. The rest of the year, we're kind of even keel or dipping into our savings. So what happens when you lose October, September, October, November, December, then the money that you would have not had to spend until January is already going to be gone. So when January and February roll around, that's when the real heartache is going to happen. That's when people are going to be flat broke.
Okay. Tell me about the FEMA statement that came out yesterday and your response.
Well, yesterday they announced that the federal government had decided to not give Ocracoke individual assistance. We did get public assistance, which is help with removing the debris and stuff, but individual assistance is important because what it does is it helps uninsured full-time residents. It helps, people that are paycheck to paycheck. It helps the common man. And, frankly, it's shocking in a way, but it's not shocking in a way. And I don't really know how to explain that. And what I mean by that is Ocracoke is small. In the realm of the United States, Ocracoke represents the minutest percentage you have. We have approximately 1,000 to 1,200 year-round residents. So how FEMA works apparently is you have a certain amount of homes, like 500, I'm just pulling that a random number, 500 homes have been damaged. Well, Ocracoke had 400 homes damaged. But what people don't realize is that's a third of the houses. And of those 400 that got flooded, the vast majority were year-round residents. Year-round residents live in the part of the island that's the lowest, and they live in the houses that are the lowest. The rental properties on Ocracoke, several of those got flooded as well, but most of those are on stilts, these beach houses. But that's not the people that got flooded. The people that got flooded are the middle class to low income year-round residents of Ocracoke. So, the fact that 90% of the small businesses on Ocracoke were flooded, 90%, what percentage do you need to qualify for FEMA assistance? 99? So, as I said, the specifications that I guess allow you to qualify for FEMA, we don't meet apparently. We're small potatoes. And that's how I feel. I feel like we're small potatoes. It's like, we're just a speck on the map that nobody cares about, and I know that's not true. The fact that a community that's so small has gotten so much love and support is, incredible. And it just speaks to the people that live on Ocracoke and the people that visit us annually, and it's overwhelming. Another thing that I want everybody to know is Ocracoke is very unique. And this is what I mean by that. When you live in most towns, you go to kindergarten, you establish a group of friends. Then you go to third grade and you've lost the majority of those friends. And then you go to middle school and you lose the majority of those friends. And then you go to high school and you lose the majority of those friends. It's not like that here. I graduated high school with the same people that I went to kindergarten with. I've known these people all my life, literally. Not just figuratively. I have literally known these people all my life, and to see over 400 of my friends and family that I've known for 45 years are displaced, are living in, sleeping on couches, or the people that own the rental properties have been kind enough to let them have. But this is temporary. The people have bent over backwards to help us. And when I mean people, I'm talking about real people, not politicians, not the federal government or whoever. I'm talking about people who care about people. This is not a partisan issue. This is not about Donald Trump or Roy Cooper. This is about people, and these people, you won't find a group of more real and genuine people than you will be right here. Sorry.
Keep going.
It's devastating, but at the same time, just seeing the community come together in a 12-hour span. People drive around in boats rescuing people from their attic. The firehouse became the hub of the community, and then the food and diapers and bottled water and stuff were just within 12 hours. I also have to say that the community surrounding Ocracoke, the people down east in Carteret and Beaufort County, the mainland Hyde County, everywhere in eastern North Carolina. I mean, there were boats full of supplies here within 12 hours. I mean, the hurricane had just barely even gone offshore. So not only are these people in like rough seas to bring us these supplies, I mean, it was like that, and so, it was our turn. New Bern got it really bad a couple years ago. Cedar Island got it really bad last year during the Matthew. Hatteras and Buxton area have gotten pummeled. Wilmington has gotten pummeled. Ocracoke up till this time, for the most part, has escaped. We got lucky, but it's gonna. You roll the dice, it's gonna happen. And these storms are not the storms that we had 10, 20 years ago. The storms that we're having now every other year are what they used to consider 100-year storms. These 100-year storms are now commonplace. It used to be you look on the Weather Channel and there's the hurricane, and now there's the hurricane. And it was a Cat 2, and now it's a Cat 5, and stays a Cat 5, and it's down in the Bahamas. I mean, Dorian was a hurricane in the Bahamas. Hurricane Dorian was a hurricane in Newfoundland. So, I mean, it destroyed, it took a path all up the east coast of the United States. So we're not the only ones that got hit, but, I mean, I think that we definitely, unfortunately, we got the worst of it this time. And that's just the way it goes. And, people have lived on Ocracoke for generations. I've had people say things to me like, that's the price you pay to live on an island. I mean, I didn't choose to live here. I was born and raised here, and yes, I could leave, but I mean, my dad lives here, my mom lives here, my grandparents used to live here, my wife's brother and father and mother and grandmom, I mean, all of our family is here. Where am I going to go? This is my home. And, this makes me skeptical whether I want my son to live here. I mean, I love Ocracoke. You can't find a better place. I mean, the adage, it takes a village, it really applies here. My son knows all the police by first name. My son knows every teacher in the whole school on a first name basis. If somebody sees my son riding down the street with no helmet on, I get a phone call. If my son is bullying another child, I get a phone call. If my son hurts himself, I get a phone call. I mean, it really is a tight-knit community. These people are like my family, and I can go months without talking to somebody, and as soon as I see them, it's like nothing, like a minute has passed. When you go to kindergarten through 12th grade, when you spend 12 years of your life with the same group of people, that's your family, and that's how Ocracoke is. These are my family, my extended family. I got lucky. My house is still there. I can go home when we leave, and I can go home and my house is fine. It's not the case for most people. It's not the case for my wife's family, her mom, her grandmom. My dad's house is okay, but my mom's house is flooded. She's in the upstairs with, in the tiny little space that's the upstairs with 3 dogs and 3 cats and a granddaughter and her husband. It's crazy. And I mean, this is real, man. I mean, it doesn't get any more real than this. The devastation is real. The sense of community is real. The need is real, man. We need help. If Ocracoke is going to sustain itself, and also another thing that I want to touch on is the workforce of Ocracoke. A lot of people have already left because they have no place to stay. Housing was an issue on Ocracoke before the hurricane. 400 houses have been damaged. Several houses have been bulldozed, So a lot of the workforce that worked these jobs, these restaurants and gift shops and motels and places, if they don't get their jobs back, if we aren't able to open up these businesses again, they're going to leave. And then when we try to open up again, we're not going to have any help. I'm not concerned about people coming back to Ocracoke. I know that'll happen. But I'm worried about us being able to provide a place for them to come back to. As I said, 90% of businesses on Ocracoke were damaged. 90%. I mean, that's How bad does it have to get to be declared a national disaster? I realize that there's bureaucracy and red tape and things have to go through the right channels. I realize that. But, at some point there comes a time when you got to be like, oh, well, hey, this is a unique situation. And, these people we're isolated. I mean, to get supplies onto this island is a challenge in itself. It's not like I can go down the street to Walmart. Walmart's 150 miles away. We have one grocery store which got flooded. We have currently I would say approximately 20 restaurants on Ocracoke, and all but 4 of those got flooded. So the infrastructure, you can't have a tourist economy if there's no restaurants and hotels and gift shops. The beach is wonderful, but you gotta have a place to stay. You can't sleep on there. You can't eat there. You gotta buy food somewhere. So I just want everybody to know that we're not beggars here. We're not asking for a handout, but we're in need. If even just to get 0% interest loans, which FEMA would provide my business if we were declared for individual assistance. Currently, I can't do that because until FEMA declares for individual assistance, I can't get a no interest loan. I can get a stopgap loan of $50,000 that I have to pay back in full in 6 months. What good is that going to do me? If I spend that $50,000 and I have to pay back in 6 months, my restaurant's not going to be back open for 6 months. So, it's just, I just want everybody to understand the severity of what has happened here. And if it weren't for the surrounding communities and, just the visitors that come to Ocracoke, the outpouring, I've had people from California, from Vermont, from Pennsylvania, from Florida contact me, offer their help, and another thing is that, right now there's people that want to, say, hey, I want to donate a refrigerator. There's no place to put it. All our houses are being rebuilt or being demoed right now. So, right now people all want to help us, but we have no place to store any of this stuff. Are they still going to be willing to help us in 4 months when we get our houses back and we have no appliances and no furniture? That's what I'm talking about. That's going to be the crunch time when people are allowed to move back into their houses, but there's nothing in the house. Then what do you do? And flood insurance on Ocracoke costs for an individual house approximately $200 a month. 10 years ago, it was $200 a year. My wife's grandmother, Grace Gaskell, she's on a fixed income. She had to make a hard choice. Am I going to pay this $200 a month? Or am I not going to pay this $200 a month and take the chance? And unfortunately, it was the wrong choice. But, hard choices have to be made when you have to pay this bill or this bill. That's the way it is. So, hard choices have to be made sometimes.
If you want to, I've got another interview.
Okay.
But hang on one second. If you want to just add to that, going back to what you said before about having people like your grandmother move off the island, how's somebody with a fixed income going to move? How do you how much it costs to relocate?
It's practically impossible for people to relocate to a different community. It's almost kind of like the same situation if you were in the ghetto of a city. If you don't have a car because your car got flooded, you don't have a place to stay, your place to stay got flooded, you don't have a job because the place you worked at got flooded, what are you supposed to do? Where's the money going to come from? Is it going to drop out of the sky? If we don't get this assistance, there are going to be people who are going to, they'll survive because the community of Ocracoke and the surrounding communities will make sure that they're okay, but it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a major struggle to get through and get everybody back into a place where we can all go back to the way it used to be. In fact, Ocracoke probably will never be exactly how it used to be. But, we're going to do our best to make sure that we can get it as close as possible, and that's all we can do.
All right. Let me, that'll conclude that part. Let me just